Here's TNT's opening week slate. The Bucks open the season at home, hosting the Nets on ring night. That will be followed by Lakers Warriors. Then 2 nights later, it's the Mavericks Hawks and Clippers Warriors. As for the defending champion Bucks, Richard, they went through the Nets on their path to the title. Can they make a statement on opening night against Brooklyn?
I don't think you can really, truly make a statement on opening night, but I will say this. When you are a champion, you have far more confidence. We were better in 17 than we were in 16. The Warriors were better in 16 than they were in 15. So I think the Bucks, even though there's a lot of people were hurt, they're going to be a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, Fiserv Forum, it brings it.
Yeah.
It was rocking during the NBA Finals. Those fans been waiting 50 years to see a championship banner.
And the snow won't hit yet. The snow won't be hit,
Yeah,
so we
right.
still might have, the Deer District.
Yeah, but Giannis had 50 in a title game. He might have something to say about it. October 20th, the Celtics at the Knicks. Boston's former backcourt of Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier will tip off the season with the rival Knicks. And the same night, we've got the Nuggets in Phoenix for a rematch of the Western Conference semis. The MVP will be looking for revenge after losing to the Suns in 4. Then on Friday, October 22nd, it's Brooklyn, the odds favorite in titles in Philly. These teams had the 2 best records in the East last season. And later that night, the Suns at Lakers, a rematch of the first round of last season. The Lakers revamped their roster, and they'll be hoping to reassert their dominance in the West. And now I'd like to welcome in NBA reporter Tim Bontemps, joining us from New York, my current home state. Tim, the big story of the day was Joel Embiid locking in a 4-year, $196 million Supermax extension, reported by our colleague and friend Ramona Shelburne. What are the next steps for Ben Simmons after this Joel Embiid move?
Well, Malika, like you said, this is a big day for the Philadelphia 76ers because they locked up Joel Embiid. And anytime you get one of the 10 best players in the league to lock up with your franchise through the better part of this decade, that's a great day for your team. But it doesn't change the overall situation in Philadelphia and around this franchise right now, which is what is going to happen with Ben Simmons. And really, that has not changed since the moment that Ben Simmons whiffed on that dunk with 3 minutes to go in the fourth quarter of Game 7 against the Atlanta Hawks in the second round of the playoffs. Now, right now, it seems like Philadelphia is in a bit of a holding pattern, waiting to see what happens with Damian Lillard, a guy who would obviously be a pretty intriguing fit with Joel Embiid in Philadelphia. But as of now, Dame Lillard isn't available, and so the Sixers are going to just stay in this holding pattern, I think, and wait and see what happens. Because if we know anything about Daryl Morey, we know that in a situation like this, he's not going to be afraid to have an uncomfortable situation, and he's not going to trade Ben Simmons for less than what he thinks he's worth. And by every account, what he's asking for in talks about Ben Simmons is a lot. So I think this situation is going to stay the way it is for now, and probably have a good chance of going into the regular season to see how this shakes out and wait to see what happens with Dame Lillard out in the West Coast.
Stay the way it is for now. Certainly, maybe some people interpreted those comments that Joel Embiid made after they were eliminated as a little bit of a shot that could lead to that uncomfortable situation that you were just alluding to. But we just found out that the 76ers will host the Nets to start the season. How big of a gap do you think there is between Philly and Brooklyn right now?
I think pretty sizable in Malika, and it's for the reasons that Dave and RJ said before. If you look at the way the East is shaped out right now, you've got the Milwaukee Bucks, who are coming off winning the title. Obviously, that gives you a real confidence boost as defending champions, as Richard said. And then as Dave said, if you talk to people around the league, I'm sure you do as well, everybody thinks the Brooklyn Nets should go into the season as the clear favorites to win the title if they're healthy. So if you look at it that way, and then you look at what Miami did in the offseason, adding Kyle Lowry, adding PJ Tucker, having like the definitional Miami Heat grit and grind tough team coming into the season, I think the Sixers right now, to me, are a clear fourth, right down there with the Atlanta Hawks, who they obviously had that big series with in the Eastern Conference semifinals.
Yeah, wow, it's going to be interesting to see. I'm excited to see the way that the East is going to continue to move, to shake out. You mentioned health. That seems to be such a reoccurring theme, especially for the Brooklyn Nets. Tim, thank you so much for joining us, and I'll bring things back to studio now. I'm here with Richard Jefferson, Dave McMenamin. You heard what Tim said. I just want to get your thoughts now. Richard, give me your initial reaction to Joel Embiid signing the Supermax extension.
Well, look, I think Tim said it best when you're talking about when you lock up a top 10 player, everything else is like, okay, we're good. We're good. It's very similar to when Kevin Durant signed the extension before James Harden and before Kyrie Irving. You're like, okay, we got KD. We're good. We're going to figure this out. Whatever else happens next. And so I think for Philly fans, there's still an elephant in the room. This is the number one thing, and this shows a commitment to Joel Embiid, I think, that everyone knows, and this also showed Joel's commitment to the 76ers. So to me, it's more about what's next and what are going to be the next dominoes to fall. For the Nets, it's signing the other two. For Philly, it's maybe getting rid of one.
Is that elephant left-handed?
We don't know. We don't truly know.
I covered the Sixers in the playoffs, and Joel Embiid was dominant. Even though he had a partially torn right knee, meniscus in his right knee, he put up 28, 10, and 4 assists, shot 51% from the field, 39% from 3. There's times when you watch him play, and you're like, he's the best player in all of basketball.
Not just
top 10.
Yeah.
Because he can do it on both ends if his body will allow him to. So I'm sure there is just a smidge of trepidation with the Sixers organization because you know his injury history, but you got to lock him up. And listen, the photos we saw on social media of him signing the contract, he looks slim. Like, I don't know if he's continued the offseason regimen that he had last year coming into this season when he looked really good and strong until that knee injury. But right now he looks really good.
I don't know what you just dropped. It's fine. But my thing is this, though. When you look at a guy like Embiid, and this is, we all talk about health and we hope for health. But realistically, with the amount that you're doing and the amount that you're playing, they probably have a 3 to 5 year window where, like, you can believe that he's healthy. If he does get hurt, he can recover. So I think this is a 3 to 5 year stretch that you have to maximize having one of the top 5 to 7 players in the league, possibly the best player in the league. So I think the 76ers are on the clock quicker than I think people think.
Well, and we've seen Joel Embiid recommit, right, to his health, to his family. He told our Ramona Shelburne again that having a child kind of that recentered him, refocused him. He sort of figured out how he wants to approach the game. And we've seen that focus. He was so disappointed. You know, he had said his goal was how the plane was going to land. He wanted to land healthy in the playoffs, and then he wasn't able to deliver on that. So we've seen that, but you said the elephant in the room, Ben Simmons. What kind of impact does this have, Richard?
Well, I think the impact is more of, like, you have a guy that does have a bit of a history of an injury, and you have another all-NBA player, all-star guy in Ben Simmons that they're looking to move on from. You can't just bring back pieces. You got to get an all-star. You got to get a guy that can continue the journey of, like, okay, maybe we're not a championship team, but we're just missing a piece. You can't bring back a couple of players and some picks for Ben Simmons. You got to get a star.
Right, last year they made the Richardson trade, Josh Richardson. They got Seth Curry, who had a fantastic postseason. Danny Green actually was playing really well in the first round. Then he had that calf injury that basically made him miss the whole Hawks series, and they re-signed him. So theoretically, you have him for the long haul. And that's a guy who's won championships with multiple franchises. But it comes down to a reliable second star that he can play alongside. They had him in Jimmy Butler a couple of years ago. He's down in Miami now. You got to figure it out, and it's got to be Ben Simmons to be the trade piece to do it.
But he's down in Miami. He's living life, living large. But Joel Embiid did tweet, there's no place like Philadelphia. Excited to continue working towards bringing a title home and eventually retire. Hashtag Philly. I see the Philly boys.
Did he tag Ben?
He tagged you, actually.
Okay.
Instead. But coming up, we have Knicks star Julius Randle.